Happy Halloween. Today, we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to look at the spookiest, scariest concerns for the Big Ten Conference and all 18 teams as we head into week 10. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with 150 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com and get started. All right, the Big Ten spookiest scenarios coming up, plus some trash talking and our Big Ten classics. And you may notice I have a new co-host today behind my shoulder if you're watching on YouTube. He won't say much. We're good to go, but glad to have him aboard on your Halloween. With Halloween upon us, I thought we'd do a self-evaluation and look at the biggest remaining scares left for each team in the Big Ten. And the conference as a whole, a couple things to be considered up. First of all, let's start with the Big Ten Conference itself. You know, next week we stop paying attention to the AP Top 25 poll as we get our first weekly college football playoff polls pieced together by the College Football Playoff Committee. Conventional wisdom is that maybe the Big Ten and the SEC may get 3 or 4 teams in the 12-team college football playoffs. Maybe one of those two conferences will get 4 in and the other one will get 3. Some sort of combination of that. Right now, it looks like Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, Indiana, and maybe Illinois might be in the conversation. But by now, you know the format, right? You got the Power 4 conference championships and the highest ranked group of 5 conference champion. And you put them in, there's 5 of your 12 spots right there, or the highest ranked group of 5, I should say. Presumably, they would win their conference championship. You throw in Notre Dame, there's 6 of your 12 spots right there. Now, if the ACC gets 2 teams in, like, say, Miami and Clemson, or if the Big 12 gets 2 teams in, like BYU and Iowa State, that means there are 4 at-large spots left for the Big 10 and the SEC to fight over, probably 2 more each. Plus your conference champions. That means 3 teams each from each conference. What if there's a surprise? What if a 4th SEC team gets in? Does that mean the Big Ten only gets 2 teams in the college football playoffs? These are the things, the scary things that we need to worry about at this time of the year. Now, this is a spooky worst case scenario. Let's hope it doesn't go that way. How about the individual teams? What's the spookiest scenario remaining for our 18 teams? Well, let's start with Oregon since they're ranked number 1 in the country. Why not? They've been great all year. Let's say they finish undefeated. Are they a lock to play in the Big Ten championship game? Yeah, right? Wrong. Not necessarily a lock. Very likely, but not a lock. For example, if Penn State and Indiana both finish undefeated as well, that means got to do a little tiebreaker scenario. All 3 will have played Ohio State. One of the tiebreakers, by the way, is margin of victory over common opponents. Oregon only beat Ohio State by 1 point. If Penn State beats Ohio State this weekend by more than a point, and if Indiana does the same against Ohio State in a couple of weeks, then it could be, hey, Oregon, you're the best team in the country. Welcome to Big Ten. You don't get into the Big Ten championship game. There are some other things that have to happen as well. I mean, it's spooky. It's a spooky situation. By the way, common conference opponent records is also a higher tiebreaker, and Oregon's in good shape. I don't want to put too much of a scare into everybody over in Oregon. I'm just letting you know the possibility is out there. Speaking of spooky, the Indiana Hoosiers, they're having the best season in 2 generations. And they have Michigan and Ohio State still on the schedule. They could be left out of playoff consideration. Forget about the Big Ten championship, playoff consideration, even though they've had the best season ever for them, because they have no ranked wins on their schedule so far. That game against Ohio State becomes a must win. Got to have it. Got to have it. Penn State's scariest item facing them this weekend is facing Ohio State. And this has a little history to it. The narrative for James Franklin and the Nittany Lions is that they win all the games they're supposed to win. And that's except for the big games against Ohio State and Michigan every year. End up going 10-2. Very good, but they can't get over that hump. There's no Michigan this year. Too bad, right? But they still have to face the Buckeyes, and they'll have to do it without their starting quarterback, it looks like. Drew Aller will be a game-time decision, but that could be a spooky situation for Penn State. They got to have that win. Ohio State, meanwhile, looks like they're having trouble shaking off their recent loss to Oregon. It's possible they could lose to Penn State this weekend and Indiana before the must-win Michigan game coming up. With a $20 million in nil money and a $20 million roster spent, does anyone think that Ohio State expected to come into the season with 3 losses? I don't think so. That should send shivers down Ryan Day's back. Illinois, my biggest fear for Brett Bielema's team is not getting enough credit for beating 3 ranked teams. They were ranked in the football polls when they played them. They're not now, but still get credit for those wins. Are they ranked too low right now at 24 in the AP poll to be in the playoff mix? Looks that way. Iowa reminds me of the legend of Sleepy Hollow with a headless horseman. Iowa continues to win games without a quarterback. It's very impressive. Brendan Sullivan gets the start this weekend over Cade McNamara, who's out with a concussion. Michigan, ditto for them. They've been playing all season long without a quarterback. And remaining games against number 1 Oregon, number 13 Indiana, and number 4 Ohio State. Very scary way to close out the season for them. Wisconsin, Luke Fickell and the Badgers. They keep dressing up for Halloween as an air raid passing team until they realize that they're still best when they ground and pound against you with the running game. Also, they have a very scary date against number 1 Oregon coming up in a couple of weeks. Minnesota, congratulations to PJ Fleck. He's turning that thing around after a scary start to the season. Former FCS quarterback Max Brosmer looks like he could play, and the defense, they'll steal the ball from you. They're the real deal. They lead the Big Ten in interceptions. They love to row to the boat, but I think it might sink at the end of the season when they take on Penn State. Maybe. That's the scariest thing left in front of them. Nebraska. Huskers fans were on a roll with a 5-1 start. Then they lost badly to Indiana, and then they let one get away from them against Ohio State. They've been stuck on being 1 win away from being bowl eligible now for the first time since 2016 for some time. And I have no doubt that the biggest fear and the biggest scare in the back of the minds of Huskers fans is, what if they don't get that additional win? Again, stuck on 5 like last year. Don't worry, Nebraska, UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, Iowa, they all await. There should be at least 1 win in that mix in the final month of the season. Michigan State, this program has been through a lot of scary stuff lately. Anybody remember Mel Tucker? Yeah, we don't want to go through that again. And there's more because 2 of Sparty's final 4 games are against ranked Indiana and Illinois. Washington, some comfort for the Huskies during these scary times. 3 of their last 4 games are against very familiar old Pac-12 teams. Unfortunately, that does include number 1 ranked Oregon. And, of course, the one non-Pac-12, former Pac-12 team that they play, that's Penn State. So that's tough. That's scary. And by the way, it's at the annual whiteout game. That's tough. USC, the Trojans' first year in the Big Ten was pretty scary. In fact, scarier than anybody thought by all accounts. Their next 3 are against Washington, Nebraska, UCLA before playing number 8 Notre Dame. Lose too many of those, and boosters might be afraid of a phone call asking to foot the bill on a $70 million buyout for their coaches. Maybe. All right, just a pause real quick. I want to remind everybody that we are going to go live on our Locked On Big Ten YouTube channel right here after the Oregon-Michigan game Saturday for immediate reaction to that game, and the Ohio State-Penn State game will be done already as well. I want both of those games done to talk about them for immediate reaction. So we'll go on live about 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. I invite you to mark your calendars on your phones or whatever your devices you have to set a little alarm, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, to join us live. Your live comments also make it happen. We exchange immediate reaction, everything. We'll do that on Saturday. Also, you notice on the crawl on the bottom, if you're watching on video, Don't forget our website, talkbig10.com. We put all of our podcasts there chronologically, and we also group them by school. And we also have a link for your convenience. If you want to buy some of your favorite team merchandise from your favorite Big Ten school, think about Christmas shopping for your favorite fan in the family of a certain school. Go right there. Got everything lined up for you there. Links for it at talkbig10.com. So check that out. Before you do anything else, though, go ahead and subscribe. I always ask listeners and viewers to subscribe because that helps us out and it gets us on the same page every day. Subscribe. It's free. It's free forever. Subscribe and follow and share Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. All right. Now, couple things we still have some more teams. We're going to get to the rest of the teams of the Big Ten, things that are very scary for them moving forward here as we continue on Halloween. So we'll do all that. Plus, the Big Ten has admitted a mistake that went against the Huskers in Columbus. We'll talk about that, plus more on the Ducks' hatred of Michigan and an injury update for the Buckeyes, plus some trash talking going on from the Hawkeyes. We got a lot to do. Don't go anywhere. That's all in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. FanDuel makes the fun of watching games even more fun. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com and join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And for tonight, Thursday night, Halloween night, Texans at the Jets. Jets are favored by 1.5. I'll take the Texans plus 1.5 on that one, and the over at 42.5. You can do that too at FanDuel.com. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, thank everybody for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget our website, talkbig10.com. Let's continue with the scariest scenarios coming up for the rest of the Big Ten teams that we haven't gotten to yet. Let's start with the Maryland Terps here. Here's something very scary for them. 2 of the Terps' final 4 games are against #1 Oregon and #3 Penn State. That should scare Mike Loxley a little bit. Rutgers, what happened? What happened, Rutgers? You know, the middle of your season's been scary enough. This team started out 4-0, and now they're losing games. And they can still be competitive in their final 4 games this year. The scariest one will be against number 24 ranked Illinois. At least it's at home. Northwestern, it's scary enough to be homeless. They haven't had their football stadium. It got torn down. They've waiting a couple years for a new one. And while they do have winnable games against Purdue this weekend, or a winnable game against Purdue this weekend, they got 3 left after that against number 4 Ohio State, Michigan, and number 24 Illinois. That's a tough closing stretch, no doubt. UCLA, it was good that they beat Rutgers 2 weeks ago because the Bruins faced the scary possibility that they might not win again for the rest of the year. Nebraska, Iowa, Washington, USC, and Fresno State remaining on their schedule. And Purdue, talk about scary schedule. It's been a scary season all season long. They just got beat by Oregon 35-0, and they still have, if Oregon wasn't enough, they still have Ohio State, Penn State, and Indiana on their schedule. That should strike a lot of fear into second-year head coach Ryan Walters. All right, enough of that Halloween stuff. That was fun, actually. Your comments are welcome on YouTube. Hit them, and the cross-talking and the rivalries. Love that stuff. Now, on to some Big Ten news that you need to know going into the weekend here. While the Ohio State Buckeyes are banged up on their offensive line, they did get some good news on the other side of the ball before their big showdown against Penn State this weekend. Safety Lathan Ransom did not play against Nebraska. That was last weekend. It was an unnamed injury. They don't give a lot of information out, but he has been at practice this week, and Ryan Day is still listing him as day-to-day, but and he wouldn't commit to his availability Saturday, but I think a full week of practice is a pretty good sign for him. I don't know if this is going to make Nebraska feel any better, but the Big Ten actually admitted that its officials made a mistake in the Ohio State game. It involved a missed spot on the ball spot on the field as Nebraska running back Emmett Johnson appeared to get a first down late in the first half. The ball was spotted behind the first down marker, though. Huskers were then confused because they thought they had the first down. The refs didn't. They burned a lot of seconds off the clock. The Big Ten admitted that on the 2nd down and 2 from the Ohio State 39, Nebraska did indeed cross the 37-yard line, but the ball was not placed in the right spot. The Big Ten said Nebraska should have been rewarded a first down. They say replay should have even jumped in at that point to take a look at the play. Didn't happen. The Huskers actually held a lead late in this game with about 6 minutes to go, only to lose a close one, 21-17. So it makes you wonder, what if? This week, Nebraska will take on UCLA. Meanwhile, the Oregon Ducks preparing to take on the Michigan Wolverines. The Ducks have defensive tackle Derek Harmon. He's on their team. He knows a thing or two about playing against Michigan and not liking Michigan because he used to play for Michigan State. He started an interview this week during player availability with the media by saying, don't like him. I'm going to leave it there. Don't like him. He also said, surprisingly, it's not that loud in the big house. I guess if you play in Autzen Stadium every day, nothing seems, I don't know. That's what he said. And by the way, we got some trash talking to talk about ahead of the Iowa Hawkeyes game against Wisconsin. Iowa defensive back Sebastian Castro, very good player. He said he's ready for this game. He said he hopes the Badgers come right at him and with a little bit of attitude. Says he likes the pressure. Last year he had a good game as the Hawkeyes beat Wisconsin, and Castro had 7 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and an interception in that game. So, and a little trash talking. We always like that. Always like to point that out. Just some news and notes going forward, looking ahead to week 10 around the Big Ten and college football for that. All right, coming up, we got Big Ten Classics. If you're new, we get so many new people every day. Just a quick thumbnail of what we do in our final segment every day. We always invite you to stick with this. On Mondays, we do my top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. Tuesday, we post Tuesday tweets, good tweets that you hit us up here at Talk Big Ten. And Wednesdays, we do our power rankings as I see them, 1 through 18 every week. Hey, pretty soon we're going to start mixing in some basketball ones too. But we're not done with football. Thursdays, we piggyback the Big Ten Network. Even though we're not affiliated with them, obviously we have a lot of similar interests. So I always like to point out when they air the Big Ten Classics because I love those old-timey games from back in the day. And then I also post their live action. You can find out when to catch Big Ten football games on the Big Ten Network. I think they have a triple header this weekend. I'll point that out in just a minute. And then Fridays, we do our pigskin picks. Put my reputation on the line, look at the point spreads, the game totals, and we make picks. We go on the record with our pigskin picks on Friday. But as I mentioned, for Thursday, we're going to take a look at our Big Ten Classics live action. That is coming up in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. 5 Hour Energy. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. And it does take a lot of energy. Power through all those all-day tailgates and touchdown celebrations and agonizing overtime. And you're just drained afterward, right? Which is why they've created Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot. It's a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans like us. The fans who are first to the parking lot and the last to leave, we see you at 5 Hour Energy. You know, like a little shot of adrenaline, fan fuel, like the shot of adrenaline I got when Indiana's D'Angelo Pons had that pick 6 against Washington. Just like that. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. So whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey so you look good, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with 5 Hour Energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com, and it is shipped nationwide. All right, as we continue here on Locked On Big Ten, it is time to take a look at this weekend with Big Ten Classics and Big Ten Live action. I'm going to put it on full screen. If you're audio only, I will describe it for you in detail. If you're audio only, you're missing my good talk show host here next to me, sitting quietly in a corner here for Halloween. Good-looking skeleton. All right, here we go. I'm going to go full screen, and these are all Eastern times. All right, we'll start it off with Friday. November 1st. Can you believe it's November? Unbelievable. November is here. 6:30 p.m. No classics on Friday, I noticed on their schedule. That was a little unusual, but we do have Big Ten women's volleyball, Purdue and Maryland at 6:30, and at 9 o'clock, we've got more women's volleyball, Nebraska. Very popular, Nebraska volleyball at Wisconsin. Then we moved to Saturday. Got the Big Ten tailgate show at 10 a.m. At 11:30, the Big Ten countdown to kickoff with reports and analysis from all the games they're getting ready to start. And then, yeah, I was right. They do have a triple header for live college football play-by-play. They'll start it off at noon Eastern, Northwestern at Purdue. That's going to be – these teams need a win. Both of them need a win here. 3:30, we go to UCLA and Nebraska. That will have a lot of interest in it as well. Again, if Nebraska can get a win in any one of their remaining games, they will become bowl eligible. So we're on bowl eligibility watch for the Nebraska Cornhuskers this weekend if they could beat UCLA. UCLA got the win the other weekend, and they're starting to look a little better. It was against Rutgers. 7:30, completing the triple header of Big Ten football on the Big Ten Network. Southern Cal, USC at Washington, like an old Pac-12 throwback game. Should be very comfortable for both sides. Then at 11 p.m. Eastern time, more women's volleyball. They got UCLA at Oregon. All right, now let's see what's going on Sunday. You know what happens on Sunday? They like to do a lot of these Big Ten football in 60s, which are just edit after snap after snap after snap. They take out all the middle stuff. It's just play after play after play. You can watch an entire game's highlights in 60 minutes and know exactly what happened. They will start it off at noon Eastern time with the big Ohio State at Penn State game. Again, if you miss it on Saturday, catch all the plays in 60 minutes at noon on Sunday. At 1 o'clock, squeeze in some Big Ten men's soccer. Ohio State is at Maryland. And then at 3 o'clock, Washington is at UCLA. And then at 5 o'clock, more Big Ten football in 60, edited snap by snap of the Indiana at Michigan State game. And we'll see if Indiana's still undefeated at that point. If they win that game, they'll be 9-0. 7 o'clock Eastern time, Oregon at Michigan, snap by snap, Big Ten football in 60. And then at 9 o'clock, Ohio State at Penn State, in case you missed it earlier. And then their final one, Wisconsin at Iowa at 10 o'clock, all part of the Big Ten football in 60 highlight packages on Sunday. So I do it. It's a pretty busy weekend going into week 10 of the college football season and the Big Ten season. So we're very excited about that. We're very excited about you. Thank you. If you've just found us recently, if you're a regular everydayer, thank you very much for that. One more reminder, we're going live after the Oregon-Michigan game around 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 p.m. Eastern to talk about the big games earlier in the day. In the meantime, there are many ways for you to interact with me. Twitter, X, at Talk Big Ten. Our website, talkbig10.com, number 10, where all of our podcasts and Big Ten merchandise is. And be sure to subscribe. Oh, and don't forget YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, hit us up on the comments there. It's a great way to reach out to me as well. Be sure to subscribe and share and follow and like this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app. And you get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Well, I hope you're having a wonderful Halloween trick or treat. The next time we talk, it will be November. Going right into the weekend. We'll preview all the games, all the teams. That's what we do on Fridays here, plus our pigskin picks in tomorrow's podcast. So thanks for joining us. Spread the word. Tell a friend about us that we're out here each and every day. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman. Talk to you next time.